Well, this week we have a very divine guest. This lady has a connection to conversations that I've experienced myself personally. So we are on a journey today in this week's show. I am so happy and so honored to introduce to you not Noemi Grace. Said it perfectly before we started recording. Noemi is a psychotherapist, a soul healer who channels new perspectives from God on unconditional love, forgiveness, divine grace, and life's purpose. Her new book, an intimate dialogue with God, the miraculous power of unconditional love, is the first in a series of books that shares her transformational communication with God and her experience as she learns to apply the divine messages in her own life. Her passions include sharing these beautiful, uplifting messages and helping people to heal patterns, wounds, and losses that have been resistant to healing. A unique aspect of her work is that she channels answers to people's burning questions directly from the divine. In her workshops and courses, she helps people discover their unique essence and dissolve their barriers to self-love and acceptance. She brings warmth and humor to her work, and she lives in the Boston area with her husband. Welcome, Noemi.
Oh, thank you so much, Mal. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm really looking forward to what unfolds in this conversation, as you too have been having divine conversations.
Well, I told you as soon as I read your book, I sent you a message. I loved it because I've been there, and reading this was validation of what I experienced. It was very similar to what I went through for a period of time, and I was writing all these beautiful little messages down every day after my meditation, and I have notebooks filled with them, and I didn't know what to call them, so I called them soul notes. But you know what? It is an intimate dialogue with God.
Yes, it is, and I am so sorry that I seem to have a tickle in my throat. I'm really
sorry. No surprise. Today, what we have going on outside, very warm. So
the ragweed is out already, unfortunately.
So take a sip of water. We're human beings here having a divine conversation.
We are having this
instead of the other way around.
My nose is dripping. My nose is conversing too.
Right. We're having a human reaction.
Yes.
So it's absolutely fine. I'm going to start the conversation with reading a quote from the book that I just loved, because I think it's an issue that all women struggle with. So this really just gripped me. Victim awareness runs very deep. You have no idea how much you perceive things through this mindset and how limited you make yourselves because of this. You think your circumstances and the people in your life are what make you limited. But you do this to yourself by choosing to be a victim. Victims can never know the truth of who they are. They're blinded by their perception of powerlessness. One of the greatest tragedies of human existence is that you believe you are powerless, and when you are actually very powerful. I love that. Oh my gosh. And there's a million of those in here. It's so wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I love it. I read it. You know, I tried to write a few books beforehand that never published, and I could never stand to read them afterwards. So I knew, nope, that's not the book. But I read it too, just a quote like that, and it uplifts me. And it is so true that we've been programmed into victim consciousness. We've been programmed into powerlessness. We've been socialized, and our life experience told us that we're not as powerful as the next person. And we may feel not good enough in ourselves, so we're victims of ourselves, or we feel victimized by other people. And so whether or not we actually get the experience of something that is victimized, we all feel victimized. And even if someone has abused us, it doesn't serve us, as you write in your beautiful book, Broken Open. It doesn't serve you to stay there in that place of having been in some way victimized. And so we are so powerful. And yes, we women, if we can get it, if each woman could get it and not do anything else, but just know that, the world would change.
I have been saying that for the last 7 years since my first book, that women are infinitely more powerful than they've ever been taught or they believe. Mm-hmm. And it just makes me want to jump up and down to hear you say that too.
Yes.
It is so true. So let's dial back a bit to how these conversations all started.
There's the starting point, and then the starting point before that, and then the long time ago starting point. So maybe I'll work my way back. So how I started to have this conversation, this dialogue with the divine, is I was on the elliptical in 2012, and I was listening to this affirmations recording. Go girl, you're unstoppable. You can do it. It was kind of like pump you up kind of stuff. And I can do it. I can do it. And I'm just pulling the levers and doing my thing. And then all of a sudden the recording stops and it's silent. And then I hear, just at that same volume, just there in my ears, no doubt about it, I'm here. Somebody's saying this to me, not me. Love is the fabric of freedom. Forgiveness paves the way to freedom. You will know when you are free, when there's nothing left to forgive, because you see through the eyes of love. And I stopped right there, got off, wrote it down, because there's no way I could invent that. Absolutely no way. It wasn't at all where I was living my life at the time. And I received that message, wrote it down, pondered it, shared it with people, said, what do you think this means? And how do you see with eyes of love? And okay, forgiveness, that's a little hard. And I'll know I'm free and all of this stuff. So I pondered it for about 3 years, and but not most of the time I forgot about it, but every once in a while it would come into my awareness. And then one day in January 1st, actually, 2015, I was in full-blown anxiety. I just finished the year and was like looking at my finances and like, how am I going to continue in this pattern, and I was just in this place of turmoil. And I said, stop, girl, stop. Right now, I'm stopping. And I wrote in my journal, this year, I will embrace what is and reclaim my joy, because there was no joy in this anxiety place that I was like living in quite consistently. And as a therapist who helps people with their anxiety, I was feeling quite hypocritical to be so anxious. And that desire, to reclaim my joy just fueled in me. I started to receive these messages starting like 3 days later, actually. And they became daily in meditation. And I was writing them in my journal and reading them and going, wow.
Yeah. Wow. It is wow.
Yeah.
We talked briefly before the show, because we've shared this experience of having these conversations. A lot of people go, oh, that's just woo-woo. Oh, I don't believe in that stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're crazy. You're talking to yourself. Well, we are, in a way. Mm-hmm. We're talking to the divine aspect of ourselves. So let's have a conversation about how we do this. How do we make this connection? How does this happen? Because this gift of having this divine guidance is available to all of us. Every single one of us can do this.
Absolutely. Now, not everyone is going to get journals worth of information. Some people get one sentence and that's all they need. I was working with a client who was a little frustrated. She says, "You can talk to God. How come I can't?" And I said, "Well, start to listen more. You are racing from the moment you hit the ground, feet hit the ground. Listen." And she got one sentence, which was something like, "The purpose will fill your heart." And that was all she needed. She was trying to figure out her purpose, and that was all she needed for that moment. And so some people have synchronicity. They have all these meaningful coincidences that happen to them, and things line up to them if they're aware. Right? But you could be in the airport and there might be someone really meaningful right next to you, but you're stuck in your smartphone. And so you don't realize that here's somebody that I could make this connection with that could be life-changing. And so we're just here. And so the distraction of where we're at, it's really learning to be silent. If you have a desire to communicate with the divine, I got news for you. The divine wants to communicate with you and is already communicating with you. But we're just too busy. We're too silent. And when I read Conversations with God, when that first came out, I read it right when it came out, 99 or somewhere around there. And I then threw a kind of a temper tantrum. Why? I want this. Why can't I have this? It's not fair. I want to have this conversation. And I did. It was like, it awakened in me that desire. It took a long time to manifest, but not by divine terms, but my life terms. And I actually had not a momentary conversation at that moment, which was, the reason you do not hear God speaking to you, even though God is speaking to you, because you are unwilling to hear anything that is different than what you think God would say to you. And I was just like, whoa. And I'm like, yes, I am. I'm willing. And then there was silence for a long time. So that's the first thing too, is the willingness to be open. I mean, if you're actually able to hear the divine, and the divine says, yeah, you need to leave your job. I've got a better job for you, but maybe you don't have a job for a while, or whatever it is, and not everybody gets that kind of communication, but we have to be willing to hear what's being said. And it's God is always loving. So we're the ones that are judgmental. God's not judging us. So it's not going to be like, you are so messed up that I won't talk to you. That's never going to happen. So we need to be willing to hear, but it's really all loving.
I love what you just said. The way the divine talks to us, it's going to be nurturing, uplifting, kind, supportive. Mm-hmm. If you're getting a voice that says, you better go out and do this, or, say that to them, or if it's anything that's harsh or attacking or judgmental, it's not the divine. That's your ego, baby, that's coming through. I mean, this language is not hard to decipher because it has its own gentle character.
So true. I mean, when I heard that love is the fabric of freedom, I'm like, what? Fabric? Freedom? What? It was clear. There's no way my mind kind of matured overnight and came out with this thing just because I'm going, you go girl. It is such a different, really great point that you mentioned, Mal, because it's such a different communication, such a different message than our mind will ever tell us, than our ego will ever say to us. And so it's really, when we hear something loving, if we can pay attention to that, if we hear something kind, if we hear something generous, pay attention to that, because that is that inner voice that's connected to the divine saying something to you. And that's what we need to listen to. But we get used to listening to the mind going on 24/7. Oh, you did that again, or whatever. Or I can't believe that,
Nonstop, that ego.
Yeah, the monkey mind.
Oh, absolutely. So I think a couple of things that anyone can do to nurture this communication is, one, have a meditation practice. Just get the mind to quiet down. Two, be open to the possibility that they can actually do this. I think when it first happened, it spoke to me a little bit, and I was like, what is that all about? And then I realized, I said, oh, it feels so good. I want more. And then I kept showing up every morning, and I wanted more. I was like, oh, are you going to speak to me today? And I would just sit quietly. And now it doesn't take much effort at all. For instance, this morning, right after my meditation, beep, 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 it came right through. It said, in love, you may have given your best, and it didn't seem that to someone else. That's okay. It's all about your intention.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I get little bits and pieces that just come up. So now I know what it is. I know where it's coming from. I write them down right away because I will never remember them. And, hey, I don't have some kind of super duper angelic connection that nobody else has. I'm just open to receiving, and the same as you.
Yes. And there's the belief somehow that came in after the first time I heard something that I can hear something.
Yeah.
And so, right, because we also believe that, oh, that's not me. I don't have that. It's, that's for somebody else. Somebody else can do that, but I can't. And so, but that meditation is where it started, except for the time on the elliptical. Mm-hmm. Other than that, the messages came when I was meditating, and I was using a mantra, and I was just into the Om whatever. And then I started hearing, and I pulled out my journal, start to scroll and scribble it and as fast as I could. And so that meditation is so important. And before I started to get really consistent messages, I was meditating every day for 6 months. And then all of a sudden it started to come like every time I just got silent. And so, there's a verse in the Bible that, I don't quote Bible verses much, but I like this because it says, be still and know that I am God. And we can't know the divine with all of busyness and all of the chatter that's going on. And we're always focused on somewhere else and something else than here and now. And
you have taken your connection, your ability to have this dialogue, even a step further. You're now able to ask questions on behalf of your clients and get divine answers, which I would love to do, but I don't think I'm there. And I mean, that is just such a gift to be able to do that for someone else, to bring them divine guidance when they need it.
Yes. It really is. And that also just kind of came upon me. I was sitting in a session, and the client said something like, I know I should do X, but I feel guilty. I feel like I'm letting down everybody else. And then all of a sudden I was like, turn on your cell phone recording, because I got something coming. And it was very different than my experience of the channeling of the books, because this stuff, I opened my mouth and it was just coming out, and I wasn't hearing it beforehand. So talk about the trust that's needed here. I'm sitting with a client, but I knew the words. Again, these are not my words. As soon as we can know that this is divine speaking, the trust is also needed to go to that level, because there wasn't this delay like translating a language. It was just out it comes, and here's the purpose of guilt, and here's what how it's gotten dysfunctional, and here's what you need to do to stop letting guilt run your life. And it was so amazing. And I transcribed it. There's actually a blog post on my website, noemigrace.com, which is how to stop guilt from running your life, something like that. And that was just channeled straight when I was working with somebody, and it was so amazing. And it just fills me up to be able to do that, and just to be of service in that way is just incredible.
Something just flashed through my head when you were talking about how the answer for her came through. In the Bible, it says, in the beginning, there was the Word.
Mm-hmm.
The Word was the very first thing ever about the universe, the divine, whatever. The very first aspect we had was the Word. So it just kind of it just sort of explains how the divine can show up with the Word in our lives.
Yeah.
And if we just listen to the Word.
Absolutely. So if you listen to uplifting messages too, if we can fill our mind with something much more uplifting than the chatter in the mind, now we're listening closer to divine vibration, divine frequency. We're more likely to start hearing it in the way that we hear it, and we have to honor the way we hear it. I know somebody that gets in the car and is told, turn left here, right there. What? No, go. It's almost like a GPS for her. Go, because she's like, I want to buy this perfect gift for somebody. And not a perfect gift, but a gift that she's really going to appreciate. And she gets in the car, turn left, turn right, go down 1.2 miles. I don't have that. I mean, I think that's really cool. I'd like that. But that's one of her gifts. You know, that's how she hears the divine. She gets that guidance in the moment of, say, go call this one, go, and sometimes we all get that. We get this kind of sense. We're remembering somebody, we're thinking about somebody, and it's like, oh, I should call them. Maybe I'm busy, maybe tomorrow. Oh, that sense is there. That's God saying to you, this connection is what you need right now, or maybe what they need right now, or you both need. And so it's following those little nuances, those little flashes that come in that I'm tired, I'll call her tomorrow, I'll do this tomorrow. And then the more we push that off, the more we don't hear. But if we listen to it and we hear and we reach out, something divine can happen.
Yummy. The conversation here about self-love was so beautiful, so soothing. And you have such a generous giveaway on your website. So please tell the audience a little bit about what you have for them.
So I have a free ebook that's called Divine Love is Self-Love, because the self-love that's been talked about in this book is about loving yourself with divine love. So it's not the ego's love. I love myself because I feel good today, or, I don't love myself because I said that thing I didn't like. It's the divine love. And so what I've done is taken some really powerful quotes from this book, An Intimate Dialogue with God, and put them in this small free ebook. And so there's bite-sized nuggets of divine goodness that's available. And so if you go to my website, noemigrace.com, you will see in the middle of the page, free ebook, and there's a picture, and it says Divine Love is Self-Love. And you just click and send your email, put your email in, and send you a copy. And it gives you a good preview of what's in the book. And the book, of course, is available on Amazon. But it's that little book. I love to read that little book. I usually read a little passage every day. It's sweet.
So this is book 1.
Mm-hmm.
When is book 2 coming out?
Well, I would say your guess is as good as mine, but really it's the divine timing, which is something huge. I could do a whole blog, a whole blog post on it, or an interview on it. It's just the divine timing is not completely known to me, but I have channeled a lot of that information already. And that book too is about the second part of that first quote. Love is the fabric of freedom. Forgiveness paves the way to freedom. And it is about forgiveness. And it's about forgiveness in a way that's different. And it's not about God forgiving us, because God doesn't judge us, so God doesn't have to forgive us. We all learn that God is judging us all the time, but we're the ones judging us all the time. So, but it's how it helps you to free yourself from lots of negative experiences like guilt and shame and even trauma. So that will be coming out. Hard to say, but in the next year, I'd say in the next 18 months. So
I can't wait.
me neither.
I love this one. This was so yummy.
Thank you, ma'am.
Noemi, thank you so much for your time today, and keep getting those messages, girl, and creating these books, because it is such a beautiful read. Just
Thank you so much.
I loved every word of it.
Oh, thank you. It really changed my life to write that book. So I'm looking forward to the rest of it.
Good. Bless you, girl.
Yeah, bless you too. Thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Honored to have you. Thank you.
Me too. You're welcome.